Welcome to your next step up the self-publishing mountain.
I'm Matilda Swift, author of quintessentially British cozy mysteries.
And I'm Samantha Cummings, author of young adult books about magic, myths and monsters.
I've written the books,
Changed their covers,
tweaked their blurbs,
tried tools from a dozen ads courses.
and I'm still not seeing success.
Now, we're working together to plot and plan our way from barely making ends meet to pulling in a living wage.
Join us on our journey where we'll be mastering the pen to snag that paycheck.
Hello and welcome to Pen to Paycheck Authors Podcast. I'm Samantha Cummings, here with my co-host Matilda Swift, and we're here to write our way to financial success. We're two indie authors with over a dozen books between us and still a long way to go towards the quit the day job dream. If that sounds familiar, listen along for our mastery through missteps journey. Each week we cover a topic to help along the way, and this week's topic is things that haven't worked. But before we get into that, let's do our wins and whinges of the week. Matilda, would you like to start us off with any win or whinge you may have?
I have a more of a gripe. It's a whinge. It's one that you're aware of because we just discovered it. That in this podcast, I have been using the incorrect microphone because of the settings of the podcast app that we use to record. It was very unclear. It seemed like there were two options that would use the fancy, lovely microphone I have, and one of them was apparently not correct. It was labelled that way, and so I have sounded less good. And I've just realised I've recorded something with that microphone that I can't wait to re-record it. Right, fine. But yes, I'm full of a whinge. This is why it's a gripe. I'm incensed by it. My win, though, we had a mastermind today, which is fantastic. So I'm feeling really on it after having kind of felt a bit deflated this week. Just because I'm sort of at that stage where you're trying to pull your work apart, and I'm also pulling apart my process on things. And, you can see how steep the mountain is ahead of you, like the clouds clearing, like, oh, it's quite steep and I'm very tired. So yes, that felt a bit of like not ideal, but important. It's good to be climbing a mountain and see what the mountain's like. But yeah, I feel like a win in that it was really good to meet with you and get re-energized, which is fantastic. How about you?
Same for the win. I was having one of those days like where I knew that most of the trains had been cancelled, and I was thinking like, oh, maybe we should postpone or just do this online. But like I just like forced myself out the door because I'm just one of those people who, when there's a slight inconvenience, I think, oh, screw it. Like, let's just scrap everything. But I forced myself. I was like, no, Sam, you have to show up to things. But yeah, like today was great. And like you say, like we really drilled down on a lot of things that we needed to drill down on and have made some great plans, like very exciting plans for the podcast. Had some great sushi and just generally had a great time wandering around Manchester.
I had a massage on the way.
So much money, but
fantastic.
Yeah, I accidentally went into Lush and bought a load of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bath stuff.
Smells so good.
And it was so good. My whinge of the week, I am going to say it's a whinge, but this is more on my part, is that, like you say, when you know that like the end of something or like the top of the mountain is so close. So the manuscript that I'm currently editing, which I thought I was going to finish at the end of last month, which is still going on this month, I'm so close to the end. But this week I haven't had any time really to work on it. So my whinge is just like the world pulling me away from what I want to be doing. But I'm so close to the end, so I'm like, it's not really a whinge, it's just a reminder to myself that I have to keep going. The last hurdle is almost done, and yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Can I add another whinge? Because I literally just remembered that we have been mentioning for several weeks, next time we meet in person, we're going to have a real sit down and talk about our finances. And we did a lot of things today, but we did not do that.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. We did do really useful stuff. It was very good. But we didn't do that, and I could really do with that. I think it's because we're both kind of in that that sort of uncomfortable transient state, like you're just about to end a project, I'm kind of at the start of something, so it doesn't feel like a great time to be sitting down thinking like, okay, let's look big picture money. But maybe we need like an extra long like online meeting before our next face-to-face, because I feel like a month away is going to feel like a long time.
Yeah.
So yes, have a finance 100%.
Chat. I definitely need a finance chat, and just like life finance chats.
Yes. And to balance that out, though, I'm going to add an extra win in that we both, who met up today, have bought each other the exact same slightly obscure tea. Which I think is a sign.
I was so, yeah, like, I mean, as a gift, that's a fantastic gift. I was so happy with myself for buying it for you. I was like, I can't wait to give you this tea so you'll finally know what I'm talking about. And as I put it down on the table, Matilda turned around and pulled out a bag and placed the same thing down on the table.
Yes, I'm drinking it now. It is delicious. It is rhubarb and custard tea. So good. Yes. Which I realise when I think about talking about the podcast. Good. I don't think Americans have the flavour. It's a very popular sweet. When I say popular, it's a delicious sweet. I think it's a very niche English sweet. But yeah, you get a rhubarb and custard sweet when you're a kid, which sounds like a horrible combination, and it's just a very acquired taste, and I love it. And the tea is absolutely delicious.
Yeah. People need to listen to me when I talk about tea.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I do. That's why I bought you the exact same tea today. Yeah, when I say tea, I mean literally we were so English that we were walking around with boxes of tea for each other and plonk them down, just fully living into the stereotype, which I love. So today, though, is about things that have not gone well. So that's the topic for today. It is things that we have tried that haven't gone well. And I actually realised as I was thinking about this, I wrote a different intro, and what I really need to ask is, what do we mean by something hasn't gone well? What does that mean to you?
I think there are varying degrees of things that haven't gone well, because there are some things that don't go well, but it doesn't put you off from doing them again. So case in point is like ads. If an ad doesn't go well, you don't say, well, I guess I'm never doing ads again.
I absolutely have said that in the past, so don't overestimate my ability to give up on ads.
That there are things that go terribly that you learn from and you can pivot, and then there are things that go wrong or that just aren't for you, and you think, well, okay, I'm not doing that right now then, or I'm never going to do that, even though that's what I thought I wanted to do. So I have got like basically something from all of those categories. I've got not going to do again, obviously have to do again, but different, and did something wrong but learned my mistake.
I've got one more category. So I think a lot of things that
what's your other category?
Belong in that. And that is things that didn't have the desired effect but had a different positive outcome. Because I think that's what I was trying to think about when I was thinking of success, is like, actually, one problem we've talked about many times is sometimes we don't define success. We just think, I'll just try this and see what happens, which is not very professional. But, it's something. And sometimes you go and think you're going to have one outcome, and even if you don't have that, there's still benefits that you might not have expected. So I think it is interesting, and when people are thinking about this themselves, worth considering. It's important to define what failure means to you, and whether you can, make sure you're looking at the whole aspect of a thing that you tried. So I know you got a list of things. What sort of things are on your list?
Always. I will start. Actually, I'm going to start with what you just reminded me, which is the kind of something that didn't have the desired effect, but didn't have a negative effect. So I was running a Facebook ad last month, I think it was. It must have been last month. And though we got quite a lot of click-throughs, it didn't get many, if any, sales. It maybe got like one or two. It definitely kicked up some KU page reads, I think. But the one effect that it had, which I didn't really take into consideration, was that it obviously told Amazon that people were interested, despite maybe not like completing the purchase. And that was the week where my ranking went from like 500 to the top 100. Like I got to rank like the 20th spot of one of my subgenres, and that was a direct result from my Facebook ads and driving a couple of KU readers to the book. And I hadn't expected it. I thought, oh, people will buy the book and that'll be like the great result. So like I didn't become an overnight millionaire from that Facebook ad, which obviously you always think is going to happen. But it did like shoot me up into the top 20, and that was a really nice positive result.
In your
And I
category.
liked that. In my category. Yeah, not the whole thing.
I mean, that'd be a very successful ad.
No. Yeah. Yes. No, unfortunately not. Just one of my subcategories. But yeah, that was nice. My other, I'll go through.
Well, can I interrupt and say, because I've got one that's quite similar to that.
Yes.
Which wasn't really not successful. It just was successful in quite a different form than I had expected. So I had my first BookBub. I don't know if I've mentioned this. Might have just slipped it in there.
I've never heard you say.
I know. Got my first BookBub early this year. And it was an international, like US and international. And it was 99 cents. So, and I didn't know what to expect. And it was for a box set that just I never do anything with. And there are 2 books following it. And there are 2 associated books in the series as well. So should be enough that everything's in KU. And I really I'd heard a lot about BookBubs, like you earn the money back the same day. Even, posts that I'd seen on Facebook groups that I'm in were like, yeah, it took me a day or 2 to earn the money back. I knew someone else who had a BookBub around the same time, who even had a free BookBub, who I think earned the money back the same day. And I just didn't. And I felt really like I had nothing to compare it to that I felt was reliable information. So it really felt like, oh gosh, that's really failed in that sense. It was really positive, like straight away, in terms of I quite quickly got like new BookBub followers, I got new reviews, I got like lots and lots of other things, and like the rank increased. I was like, I'm sure this is looking good, but like on the money side, it's not paying back. It took a solid month to pay back everything I'd put into the BookBub ad and the kind of associated the BookBub deal and the associated newsletters that I'd done to kind of pump the rank before then, and the Facebook ad I'd done to pump the rank. It took a solid month to pay off, and I really, really hadn't expected that. I thought it would be much quicker, and a big part of that was that it was I had to get down to 30% royalty because I needed to reduce it across all the stores to 99 cents. And however, it has just kept selling. Like it has kept selling, and it keeps getting borrows, and reviews keep going up, and lots and lots of positives. So I wouldn't say it failed, but definitely something that felt a bit like it could have failed. And I think in the metric of, BookBub pays off instantly and you become a millionaire overnight, I didn't do that. But it has been like 100% profit already, and it is just continuing. So really good and useful to see, and kind of useful to maybe have enough time behind me and enough people to chat to in the industry that I could not feel panicked by it. And to also have had enough money that it would not have really killed me to lose that money. So that felt very positive. But that is a real sort of thing that can feel really worrying. If I were in a different position, that would have felt horrible and like a real failure. If I'd got bills that I'd relied on, having that money in the bank back again, and obviously it takes months to get the money back because Amazon has a big delay. So not a failure, but like not the success I had pictured, and really had to keep working on the positive, like thinking and focusing on the positive parts to it. But yeah, so I thought I'd push that one in because it was sort of related. But yeah, what else is on your list?
I have just a very generic thing about book covers. When I first published my first book, Etta, and also like the follow-up to that called Baby Steps, it was when I was like publishing stuff that I didn't really think anybody was going to see, and so I just kind of created covers in Canva and thought they were kind of cute enough and like colourful enough. But after a couple of years of them being out, realised that they were in no way, they weren't genre specific at all. And at that point I was like, well, I kind of would like people to read these books, but no one's going to pick these books up from these covers that I've got. So that was a very hard, not a hard lesson, just like a stupid lesson to learn, which was just like, I think maybe that was a very big part of my, like, just my self issues, is not wanting to be seen. And I think that I'd covered the books, not realizing that I'd done it so no one would see me. So that's just like a thing that I'm working on.
Like holding yourself back on purpose.
Yes, yeah. Like, so it was, I completely, I didn't know that's what I was doing, but now looking back, I realize that's 100% what I was doing, and I would never do that now. So that's just like a very silly, very basic thing that went wrong for me, was just not taking into consideration what people expected. I mean, and that was also like, I'd taught myself self-publishing. I didn't know what other people were doing. I didn't know that people were doing it as a business, not like for like a real business. So it was just like a naive mistake. And I'm fine with that. It wasn't like I didn't think I was going to make a living off that book or that series. So just done. And
I would assume that
I've lived
everyone's
to
got
tell the tale.
Yeah, I would assume that anyone who's just kind of spent any time self-publishing has got a cover story like that. I've got a cover story. Like my very first series, I had booked in with an incredibly prominent designer in the cozy field, who we just couldn't mesh. Like we weren't on the same page at all. And I felt like I couldn't understand what she meant. She couldn't understand what I meant. And we ended up with covers that like neither was really happy with. And then we parted ways amicably. But I was very close to deadline and I had to get another cover designer and use some pre-mades. And I did it thinking, I'll get these recovered really soon. Maybe when I get to, I don't even know what I thought I was going to wait for. I think partly as well, it wasn't necessarily, like maybe subconsciously like holding myself back, like, oh, these all do. And they were really nice covers and they were very good for pre-mades and they fit the market. They were kind of maybe slightly old looking at the time, and then the longer I left it, the older they looked. But they were really cute covers, and like I really like them. They're still on my paperbacks, and I do like the design. And I think that is a tricky thing with covers, right? You can like a design that's not the right design. But I didn't replace them. I didn't replace them. And then I got myself to the position where I needed to buy 8 book covers at once, which was horrible. So expensive, and I should have thought about it sooner. And that I don't know. I don't know if I thought about it sooner. It was just that I couldn't make it, like, I didn't have the bandwidth to bring it to front of mind. And so that's something, and I'd say that actually doesn't really feel like a failure. That was just like a thing, and I chose to keep publishing rather than spend time on covers.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like I say, it's like sometimes it's not really a failure. It's just just didn't quite work. Like it just didn't work out. I'll go with this next one, which is another kind of silly. It's not silly, right? This works for some people. This just doesn't work for me, is what I've found, is writing in multiple genres. And I thought that I could be an author who wrote in multiple genres. And then I realized that that was another holding myself back situation, because I just didn't want to commit to like one type of story, let's say. Because I guess I was just scared that, like, because my genre, young adult fantasy fiction, is very like highly competitive. I know like most genres are competitive. Young adult has always felt like a ridiculously competitive genre, but
it's competitive with big trad publishers in it as well, which makes it like financially very difficult to break into.
So it's just an overall minefield of it's just difficult, which is fine because I love a challenge. I've got a middle grade series, and I'd also dipped into urban fantasy because I thought that it wasn't a big deal. Like, I wasn't running a business, I was just doing it for fun. That was back when my mindset was like, I'm just a hobby writer who thinks that they're going to make a living despite not treating it like a job. Like somebody will discover me, and like everyone who starts out thinks that, and that works for some people. And I know loads of people, I'm not like particularly personally, but I follow loads of people on social media who rave about the fact that they love writing different genres, and they wouldn't have it any other way. but I am not that person. I don't have the mental bandwidth to split myself up into a three-pronged marketing machine. Like, it's just too much. Some people are great at it. Some people are so good at managing all these different things. I cannot manage all these different things. When I've got one too many things on the go, everything falls down. And I stop being a human and I just turn into fog and I slip away. So, yeah, it's just, that was, I'm not going to say that was a mistake either. Like, it just didn't work for me. I really enjoyed what I learnt from doing it. I'm just done doing that. I just really want to focus on like niching down and just like developing my brand rather than being all over the place. Where I'm all over the place in my day-to-day life. I don't need to be like that with my business. Do you have anything similar or like?
No, and in fact, I think I don't really know why, because I have always written lots of different genres, and tried lots of different things. I had lots of different books, you know, in the drawer, coming out of the drawer, going into the drawer, you know, juggling around. And then as soon as I published Crazy Mystery, I think it was really easy to see. I think particularly because long series are the norm. So it was very easy to see that, like, you just continue doing this, and that is the publishing side of things. I've definitely wasted some time going back and forth in like picking books out of the drawer that were maybe more the sorts of things that we tried to publish, thinking, oh, should I go down that route maybe, and then coming back to my self-published books and then going back and forth a bit. And that felt like not committing to myself and not having enough faith that I could do something that I set out to do, and thinking I had to find the right option. Whereas like there isn't a right option, there is just like decide and decide strongly. Yeah, so I think I would say that didn't feel like a failure, but that felt like a thing I had to actively commit to in myself, and really go through the process to make that decision.
Yeah, I think that's something that this is probably for a bigger conversation in the future, is this idea of like just being really specific with the topics, or like the stories that you want to tell, the topics you want to cover, the genres and all the tropes and stuff. Is that there are stories that you have in your heart, or like just like then they come so easily to you and you think, oh, I'd love to write this story, but it's too heavily leaning towards what people do in trad publishing, or it just doesn't quite fit in with the genre or the brand that you currently have, and it feels like such a shame. And I think that's probably where I fell down, is that I just thought that every story that I had was good enough, but I now know that that's not true. Like, you do have to, and I'm not to the point yet where I'm like specifically writing to market, but definitely the market is influencing my decisions a lot more now, for better or worse. I don't know.
I think those books that I kept going back and forth with, they were ones where it was a bit like going back to a boyfriend that you know isn't right for you, because they were books where I had given them plenty of time and I couldn't make them work. I could not make them. I couldn't make them saleable, like in any way. They were always great but not excellent. Like that was the best they could get, and I was just like I kept going back and thinking like, maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe it's changed.
But Daddy, I love him.
Yes, yes, I do. I really do. So, but it was, it's time to grow up. It's time to be with the good.
Yeah.
The books that treat you right, and that's what my crazy books are.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Another thing that I have on my list here is I may not even talk about Amazon ads, because I feel like that's just such an easy, low-hanging fruit. Amazon ads are hard. They don't work for me. I'm going to try them again. But
yeah. I think when I was thinking about this topic, actually, I did think about ads, and it's actually not the ads themselves is the issue. The issue is I feel overwhelmed by the topic and like overwhelmed by learning about them. And I am such a like a perfectionist person that I think it's not even as a perfectionist, but like I really want to succeed at things. That I don't want to do something if I'm not going to be able to do it well. And I don't have time to become a professional Amazon ads person, so I have to go through the process of failing. And that is not normally how I learn. That's not my normal learning process. Like I am high learner in strengths, but I'm not a like learn by failing person. I am like a read all the books, like do all the studying, and then know everything, and you will succeide. That is the sort of learning I do. And it's not really possible with ads,
That is
and
not
I find
me.
that very frustrating. So
Yeah.
I've come to ads a few times, and then I'll do a bit on it, and I'll be like, okay, I've researched this far, so this far might be like in the creation of the ad and the setup and things, and then I'll do that and I'll let the ad run, and then I won't have the next step learned, and so I will just end it and then walk away and be like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
But it's like it could work. I'm not there yet, or it's the failure. The thing that hasn't worked is I'm not approaching it in the right way yet.
Right. So
and I think
the failure
I
there
need to.
is your mindset.
Is me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the failure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Um,
Thank you.
Yeah. My failure is just like I know Facebook ads so much, and like I know the system and I know how to set them up, and I find it like I really like it. I like seeing the outcomes. I like looking at the charts. I feel like as much as I'm not great at them, I'm not getting good results really, but I still understand the machine of it. And I understand how it thinks. Like I get it. Amazon ads is like the system is just so different, and it feels like it's just like feels really cruel and like unusual punishment for something that should be really geared towards having good outcomes. I feel like they're like no outcomes for you.
Yeah.
So I definitely see it as that's like the biggest hurdle for me, and I've put it to the side because I just don't think I'm at the stage where Amazon ads are really going to help me, not for like how much money I want to spend on ads right now. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with being too small a fish for that hook to work for me. That's cool. That's fine. I'm okay with that. The last thing I'm going to say on my list is a very different topic. So this is not to do with writing, and it's not to do with like systems or anything. It's something that I thought I would be able to do, but couldn't find the time or didn't feel like I was being beneficial. So years ago, I joined a group, and it was about matching authors with other authors in the genre so that you could critique each other's work and have like a friendship, a partnership, where you could send each other work back and forth, critique it, help each other on the publishing path. And I did that, and like the person that I teamed up with, we're still friends. She's actually got a book coming out in the near future, and it was so much fun. And yet, I don't think I was good at it. I don't think that I am very good at critiquing other people's work. And that's something that, like, I think I will hopefully get better at. It might just be, I just maybe feel like I'm not, and maybe I am. I don't know. But I didn't really feel like I had the time to do it because I was also writing. And I know that some people balance, like, they'll have like a side hustle where they're writing books and stuff, and on the side, they're helping critiquing and doing like manuscript edits or whatever. And I really wanted to be that sort of person, and I thought that I would have the time for it, but I don't have the time for it. And I think that's okay. Like, everyone says that you should get a different stream of income when you're doing this, and that's not my stream of income. Helping other people with their manuscripts, I just don't think is my my little side hustle.
Sorry if you can hear that. That's my cat scratching my chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting actually, because critiquing, I think, is a skill that is useful for yourself. Like, it's not as a side hustle. I think being good at critiquing other people's work helps you like hone your, or at least for me and like other people I know, helps you hone your like self critique skills or editing skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think actually what's interesting is doing it with one-on-one is maybe not the most impactful way that I found. I think if you can form or join some sort of group, because then what you're forced to do is see the same issue over and over and over again, and you think, actually, you know what, that is really rubbish. If you
Mm-hmm.
see something once, you can kind of work it into your understanding of someone's meaning, or you can almost individualize it. So a good example of that is prologues, right? Every baby writer loves a prologue. And then when you join some sort of like writing group where there's 6 or 10 or 30 of you and you have to read everyone's prologue, you're like, you know what, I realize prologues are terrible. I'm team anti-prologue now. Whereas like you're at your own prologue, you think, well, that's masterful, important, very, very essential to the story. And then you read someone else, you're like, oh, interesting, I see what you're doing there.
I don't think I've ever written a prologue. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just am like, why? Like, I'm just going to start the story where it starts. I don't need to be clever about it.
That is very, very advanced writing from the off. A lot of people, when they start write a prologue. Yeah. Often people do it when they are bad at starting books, which is like the reason I did it. Lots of people did it. Is you're starting the book too early, so you're starting the book at a boring place. You think, well, the beginning of the book is actually boring. So what I'll do is I'll put an interesting prologue in, and then they're forced to continue because they want to find out where the prologue kind of leads. And they'll be like, they'll watch my character now wake up and brush their hair and look in a mirror. That really important stuff. And seeing that 30 times, you think, awful. Yes, you realize how absolutely not just not great, but like just atrocious and like a crime against humanity it is.
Oh, I'm sorry to all people who write prologues who are listening to this.
Well,
I don't have anything.
I wrote one recently.
I don't mind. Yeah,
you should. No, I've written one recently, and my book was better without it. You don't need it. I think the only time that I see them often is in thrillers, and you often see, and occasionally in cozies, you'll see like a scene from later in the book excerpted at the beginning, and it'll be some sort of like dramatic scene from later in the book. I don't think it's necessary, and I think people are using it because they feel insecure about their openings. So it's like, really should think more about your opening if you feel insecure about it, rather than sort of almost try and feel like you're having to trick people into reading the book.
You just made me realize that the TV show that I watch basically does a prologue every season, where they show you part of like the rug pull part of the season right at the start, and then you're like, oh my god, then you like race to get to that episode. But it works for TV.
It's actually like How to Get Away with Murder did that, and I think they did that in a way that was interesting, but because all the way through they're doing time slips, so I think that was warranted. But yeah, just doing one, and I think doesn't Breaking Bad do that, where it shows you like a dramatic ending of the season, and then you go back to the beginning. Yeah, I think really it's one of those things that looks good when you see it once, and you can sort of get away with it very occasionally. But if you saw if every TV show that you think like, please no.
Well, also, get the benefit of showing, not telling in a TV show, but you don't get that. Yeah. I'm assuming when people are writing prologues, it's very much just all tell.
Sometimes when it is like a flash forward, it'll be like a really dramatic scene, and it's like you're in the middle of something, you know what's happening. Oh my goodness, so intriguing. To make up for the fact that the beginning is very boring. Yeah, and I can see, and like agents, you get a lot of agents who are like, don't include a prologue. It's rubbish, and it often like one person's prologue can be really, really good, but when you see 30 in a row, you're like, actually, I hate everyone that writes it with a prologue with a passion.
I can
so I would say critiquing is worth persisting with, because it makes you a bit more conscious of things in your own work, a bit more critical of your own work, and saying like, oh, how would other people receive this?
Yeah, I think that I would not be put off to do a critique group. Like, I mean, this is how we kind of started. Like, we had a critique group, and I really liked that. It didn't go very far, which was fine, but it was a nice introduction to how it works, and I wouldn't say no to doing that again with people, because I did feel like I learned a lot from that. But it's just more of like trying to do it as almost like a second job. It's just,
Yeah.
It's just too much. Way too much.
Yeah. I think I'm naturally quite critical, so I think a critique group works for me.
Yeah. Yes. You're very good at it, though. You're very confident with your opinion, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so confident with my opinion. And I'm also really easily pleased, so it's really like
I was gonna say, I think you're
just...
like, you are genuinely quite happy with what you're reading, so it's hard to be critical when you feel that way.
Yeah.
Whereas I am genuinely like, no, don't do this.
Yeah. I know. I need to be more Matilda.
Yeah. Was that the last thing on your list? Okay.
That's the last thing on my
so
list that I could come up with. So
okay. Yeah. So like I was saying, I sort of thought of mine in categories. So the ads example was one where it's not that I've necessarily tried and failed, is that I actually maybe didn't put enough thought into what's the whole process, or I didn't have enough time for the whole process. So I would go back to it again, but with a different attitude, with more preparation. I'm having another run at Amazon's preparation, and what I've tried to do now is just split the whole task into small chunks. I'm going to try and do a little bit every week and not start ads until I've got further down the road with like getting things set up. Because I do think a lot of people seem to learn by trial and error when they're doing Amazon. So they say like, oh, you've got to just run it and see what happens, and then yeah, change your ads based on the outcome. But it's like, that's not me. I'm not a trial and error person. I am a like research to PhD level and then be an expert and succeed. Yeah, which is not that manageable when there are a lot of things to learn, but I think I need to do more of that for ads, because otherwise I just keep abandoning them after having spent money, and that's an absolute waste of time. One of the things that I wanted to talk a bit about was things, as I mentioned, things that didn't go the way you wanted at all, but they've had other positive outcomes. And I think a lot of stuff in self-publishing is like this, where you might think A will lead to B, but actually you don't get B, but maybe a year down the line or 2 years down the line you get C, and C was much better. So I think a big part of self-publishing is just trying lots of things and not really knowing how they're going to go. So last year or the year before, last couple of years, I've been invited to do various kind of group projects, either a big group promotion or an anthology, and like various things like that, where kind of maybe simplistically naive, like kind of I'm just like, oh, okay, so we're making a book or we're making a promotion, and so the outcome will be sales or readers, and like that's really as far as I had thought with it. But actually a lot of it was like networking and getting to know more people and being in someone's mind for a future opportunity. So I think a lot of stuff where there's not much risk and not much cost to you is worth doing, even if you don't think there'd be much benefit, and even if it's likely to fail, because you will get some unspecified rewards in future. And you might not, but like I think there's a lot of stuff in self-publishing that is very relationship based. So it is worth trying lots of different things just to make new connections. Like Sam and I, right? We started in a critique group because when I came back from Hong Kong, I didn't have a critique group, and I'd had critique groups for a long time, and also did all different writing groups. And I really find it beneficial to have a writing community, and I had none in the UK. And obviously it was a pandemic, and there was no way of making some, so I at least very tangentially knew Sam, so we could connect. And then we started meeting up, and we invited other friends, and we could never really get the group off the ground. Like we couldn't find people who were wanting the same frequency of meeting and critiquing as we were wanting. So and also it was a pandemic, it was a really hard time kind of emotionally for everyone. So that didn't succeed. We tried that and it failed, and I don't have a critique group at the moment, and actually that's fine. But out of it, I now have we spent 5 hours a day talking about like our publishing journeys and what we tried and what we want to do, and then we've now spent a good chunk of time this evening really go back and reflecting on what we've done, which I would never have got. I would never have sought this out, because it's such a hard thing to ask someone to do. Like, would you like to be my colleague?
Yeah.
And like my work wife in a workplace that is like the entire planet.
And also, we like how it came about was so like, well, it was just like you being like very direct with what you wanted. And like you said, like the critique group didn't work out, but we would never have both realised. Well, we legitimately, our first meeting when we got together, both said, do you know, I've always wanted to do a podcast. And the next week, we were like, microphones bought, get everything set up. And we basically started recording within weeks. Like it wasn't that long. It was like a couple of weeks. Then we started recording.
I think by coincidence, we both in fact had we both had microphones. By coincidence, had the exact same microphone, which seemed like a sign if you're looking for signs.
We had the exact. Yeah. Yeah, like this is just you couldn't have planned this. Would never have thought this time last year that this is where we'd end up. So yeah, insane. I love the like the community, not so much community, but just trying to find, like, saying yes to opportunities and finding like the little golden nuggets that come out of that. I was part of a collaborative book that has died a bit of a death because somebody else is in charge of putting it together and editing it, and as those things go, it didn't go very far. I think the book's finished. I think it's almost edited, but this has been like going on for like over 5 years, so I don't think it's ever going to come out. But what came from that was an experience where I got to collaboratively write with people who I had never met online, and we all wrote different chapters, and then the book got passed around. You read the previous chapters that had been written. You then came up with the next chapter. It was so much fun, and that led to me doing an author event at a local book fair where I went to sell books, but met other authors in the local area, and then did a talk to not many people, 7 or 8 people, but it was still an experience that I, before it happened, I was like, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could stand up in front of people and talk about my writing life or like what I've done, because I just felt like such a fraud. But now, after that event, I was like, do you know what? Yeah, I can. And if somebody were to say to me, like, do you want to come and do this? Yeah, like give me a mic, turn the camera on, let's roll. But yeah, like now, even though like I am actively trying to seek out more of those things, and I'm scared, I've done it once, so I know I can do it again. So that was like a nice outcome that I never expected from trying to write a book with a bunch of people.
Yeah, so I think just as long as you are constantly moving forwards and like staying positive about experiences and not always, I think, not expecting A to lead to B. I think that is, oversimplifying things and can lead to you being very like easily put off. And I think, you hear this a lot in self-publishing, that really the key to success is just keeping going, like just staying in it. The way most people fail is just by quitting after a few like knockbacks.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really feels like a good industry for long-term success and like unexpected things. I do have one more thing that I wanted to mention that is something where I haven't succeeded. So this goes back to a time that was really challenging. So during the pandemic, I moved back to the UK from living overseas. I moved in with my family, who I absolutely really get on with, but I hadn't lived with anybody for a long time, and I found it a big adjustment having to live with people full stop, especially when everyone was in the house all day every day and couldn't go anywhere. We had quite strict lockdowns in the UK, and I have an autoimmune condition, so my family being very careful, so we were really just together a lot of the time. And I am generally, a person who spends a lot of time by myself. So I found it just like a time when I felt a little bit more on edge, even, which sounds odd because I really get on with my family and have fun with them, but I hadn't anticipated the big like emotional change of living with other people, and being a guest in their house. That is also maybe part of it, that I wanted to be conscious of that and not feel like I was stepping on people's toes. So during that time, though, I was so on the hamster wheel with writing, and I had really just started self-publishing. So I put my first book out in like October 2019, and I had plans. I had such plans to like write and like have a regular release schedule. I'd got ahead of my writing to get things published. I had the next book's planned out and the covers ordered and everything. And I wrote book 2. I think, and I'd already been writing during the protests in Hong Kong, so it's already quite a tricky time. So I maybe got behind a bit on my schedule of what I meant to be. But, you know, I went to write in a hotel. I worked as got things in my deadline. I felt like a real achiever. And then the pandemic hit, and I kept going as if like my plan was set in stone. And I wrote book 3, and it was awful. Like, it just obviously wasn't cozy because it was such an emotionally tricky time. And I was trying to write faster because I was behind. So I was like, let's try some random different techniques for writing faster. And I made the book need much more editing than I really is my norm, and then I really should have done. Yeah, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll try a new series. That'll be the key. I'll write a whole new series. And I wrote the first book in that, and that wasn't very good. And again, it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't cozy. So I had to rewrite that, and I tried rewriting that a couple of times, and just spent time and time and time on that. And I just ended up not publishing for ages. And I felt what felt like really far behind, and it just actually made me more anxious. And the actual failure was not giving myself any grace and not learning from what I could observe, just trying to follow a plan. And I'm still very conscious that I still tend towards that. And I find it hard to, I think we've talked before, right? I find it very hard to evaluate myself and change in response to that. My natural style of work is just like, put your head down and work as hard as you have to get something done. And I can do that, but you cannot do that forever. So I can do that in short bursts. But that's not effective for a career. It's not effective for a career in publishing. Also, when your job is to be creative, it's the worst. And it's something that I still really want to get better at. I know that if I was in the exact same position again, so I had got a schedule set up and I was on the road to something and I went through an enormously stressful time, I would still really struggle to give myself grace and to observe and to change my schedule, because I would just keep thinking, oh, just keep going today. And I really was forced to face this fact about myself when I was on my holiday recently in Corfu, and I got a migraine. And my number one migraine symptom is believing that I don't have a migraine. And so it's the worst symptom. And also it's the worst symptom because it actually makes me much worse. It makes me sicker. Because if I notice early enough that I've got a migraine, I can take a painkiller and it will be gone. I can take a painkiller, maybe put some ice on my head, and I can alleviate the pain. If I wait until the period at which my migraines really affect my digestive system and cause it to absolutely freeze, and I cannot swallow anything, I cannot keep anything down. If I hit that point, it's too late. That's it. I'm gone. I have to just wait because I cannot take any painkillers. I just throw them back up again. I don't know anyone in Corfu. I woke up already at the throw up stage, so I felt awful when I woke up. But I was like, it's just a headache. I'll just, actually, I've been eating really rich food. I've been out in the sun. What I'm going to do is take a walk. I'll just take a walk early morning. I'll get dressed, take a walk. And my neck and my head feeling a bit tight. So I got up and stretched them out. When I was stretching, I threw up. And I was like, let's get on with that walk. So I went and took a walk in the heat, in the sun, having thrown up the water that I had drunk that morning. So obviously the worst possible plan. But I was on a path. I had made a decision. So I must do this thing. And I went for a walk and I came back and I threw up again. And I tried taking painkillers and I threw up, and I tried eating, I threw up, and I tried to get a massage, and they were like, you should go to bed and come back tomorrow. And they gave me some painkillers, and I went home and I came back and I threw up. And I just had to wait. There was nothing I could do. Literally nothing. There was no solution in that situation that I have found. There are things that can alleviate it. I can get ice from my head, but also by that time, I feel so rubbish that I just have to lie down in the dark. And I hate doing that. That's my least favorite thing to do. I love I love doing something. So that migraine is a real microcosm of my bad attitude to upset to plans. And it really forced me. I just spent the entire day lying in the dark, and I ate next to nothing. And I went down in the evening, had a little bit of fruit when I could finally felt myself able to digest things again. And I had water, I could finally drink. But I couldn't do anything because I couldn't go anywhere because it was too hot, and I couldn't drink because I couldn't go out in the heat. So I was just imprisoned in my need to stay still and be quiet and not move. And I really want to try to like have that sense of almost like surrender or like replanning or just like giving myself grace, which I've really, really struggled with. And that for me is a failure.
Yeah.
Is the failure is not in stopping, the failure is in not allowing yourself to stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's true for a lot of people. That, I mean, I'm kind of the same like as this, but I see this is one of my my pros rather than cons, is that once I've made a decision, I'm in. But I'm not
Even if
into
you're
the
like
point
throwing
where
up.
yeah, like I'm not into the point of where I'm just gonna if I start throwing up, I'm like, but this was a great decision. Like once I've made a decision, that I will just keep going, which is has helped me a lot in terms of writing. Because once I start writing, I won't stop writing till I finished a book, and that's great. But I at least know when I hit a wall or when something goes wrong, and I can be like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do something else then. So you have to be a little bit fickle. You have to have that little bit of like fickleness. Is that a word? Where
I mean, flexibility
you
would be
can
the
just
ideal
be
word
like,
for this.
just flexibility. Yeah, I mean, I call myself. I just say I'm like a very fickle person. But yeah, just that little bit of flexibility where you think like, well, I've taken this as far as I can. I guess this isn't what the universe intended for me. Let's see where this other path goes.
I just live in the belief that I could go through the wall.
Yeah, I don't. I'm just like, like I'm basically like in Labyrinth. I just feel like I'm like Sarah in Labyrinth. I just like any door that opens, I'm like, yeah, guess this is the one. Straight into the bog of eternal stench. Like, and then I'm like, I guess this is where I need to be. But you know,
I'm more like Atreyu trying to get through the swamp to despair. I'm like, come on, I'll drag my horse until it's dead.
Such great 80s references
very,
for everybody listening.
Yeah, very contemporary time references for everyone. Hopefully you're also just an elder millennial listening to this podcast. Or have good taste in movies, either or.
Yes. Well, I think that's like a good way to end this. There's great visuals.
And I think I would recommend everyone to do this process. It has been very helpful because I had thought like, oh, when I was coming to plan it, I was like, oh, do I have any? And they're all very bitty, but actually the failure isn't the thing, or the lack of success isn't the thing. It's like, it helped me categorize and like learn patterns and recognize patterns in myself and what I'm doing and how I want to change those going forwards. So it was really useful to do this and think about what you've tried and not succeeded in and why.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's always the why. It's always the analytics part that's the most important. It's like when you run a Facebook ad, you can run as many ads as you want, but if you're not going to look at the results and try and understand them, then you're never going to progress. So
that is
you have to look at yourself. Yeah. You have to look at your own analytics. Try and understand them, see if you can figure it out. If you can get somebody to make a chart or some sort of pie chart or a graph, even better. Oh, I mean, that would be amazing if somebody was like, just write down everything you've done wrong this year and we'll send you the pie charts to show you like how these results look.
Ideal. Yeah. I mean, one day in the future.
Your peers.
Not sure what that
when we're in Minority Report, which is how we always talk.
Yeah. We've got our futuristic boards of information.
Right, so let's wrap this up because we've been chatting for a while. For next week's topic, we are starting a new series. Huzzah! And this new series is The Other People in Your Business. And so our first episode in this new series is going to be an episode on the realities of our mastermind meetings. And I'm really looking forward to talking about this. So what are your thoughts on this right now?
I think it's interesting, hopefully, to talk about for other people because we have a podcast which are usually about an hour long. Whenever I talk to other people, they're always surprised that we don't edit this. So this is pretty much, we just have said this. I mean, I don't want everything we edit it. I'm going to keep in these references to Labyrinth and Neverending Story.
Yeah.
Why would I have kept that in if I was editing this?
Oh.
So I tidy up for the audio, but we don't remove any content because we want to maintain the conversation. But we talk a bit before we come in. We have face-to-face meetings, and I think it is helpful because obviously there's some things that we don't want to put on air, and there's also things that are at an early stage, or the backstory to this, like things we've talked about, what we should be putting in the podcast. So it'd be nice to talk about kind of the rationale behind what we're doing, and also what we've thought about that doesn't really fit into a podcast model.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about all the things that don't make it to the audio. Which
we never talk about Goonies on this, and we talk about Goonies all the time in real life.
we do talk about Goonies all the time. We're really saving some references. We have our own private references that we don't bring to the podcast.
But next week, look out!
Oh, yeah, I'm going to write down all of my Goonies quotes and my Overboard quotes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about how this works, how it works for us, and all the fun stuff. So
all right, we'll see you then.
In order to hear that, you've got to tune in. Yeah, so don't forget to subscribe to this wherever you're listening to it. Give us a follow on social media, wherever you want to follow us. And tune in next week. Thank you very much for being here, and we will talk to you next week. Goodbye.
Bye. You've been listening to Pen to Paycheck Authors.
Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to learn how to write your way to financial success.